This is my new boyfriend? I need to reveal my swinger nature. My wife of 5 years told me after introducing her AP. So I said good luck, and when I filed for divorce. She demanded the house, but she forgot about the prenup we had. Now she is saying that it was a joke and I shouldn't take it that seriously? Alright Reddit, buckle up because this one's going to take you on a ride. I'm still processing what happened, and my buddy told me this would make legendary Reddit content. He was right. Here's how my wife of 5 years decided to blow up our marriage in the most absurd way possible. I'm 32, work in commercial real estate here in Pennsylvania. Nothing too flashy, just steady income analyzing properties and negotiating leases for a firm that's been around since the 80s. Got my own townhouse that I bought 3 years ago. Fully renovated the place myself over 6 months. We're talking new floors, updated kitchen, even redid the bathroom tile because the previous owner had the worst taste imaginable. The kind of guy who thought beige on beige with brown accents was peak interior design. The townhouse became my pride and joy. Spent weekends at Home Depot learning about crown molding and watching way too many YouTube videos about grout application. My dad helped with the electrical work because I'm not trying to burn the place down. But everything else? All me. Even built custom shelving in the garage for my tools, because I'm that guy now apparently. I met my soon-to-be ex-wife Sarah back in 2018 at my cousin's wedding. She was friends with the bride, worked as an event coordinator for some hotel chain. Seemed normal enough, laughed at my jokes, didn't roll her eyes when I talked about interest rates and property values. For someone in my field, finding a woman who doesn't immediately zone out when you mention commercial zoning laws feels like winning the lottery. We hit it off immediately. She was fun, spontaneous, always planning these elaborate date nights at restaurants I'd never heard of. Made me feel like I was actually living instead of just working and going to the gym. We moved in together after 6 months, which looking back was probably too fast. But I was 27 and thought I'd found someone special. Dating Sarah felt like being in one of those movies where the uptight guy learns to loosen up. She dragged me to art galleries, weekend trips to random small towns, even convinced me to try hot yoga once. That lasted exactly 1 session before I decided sweating that much voluntarily wasn't for me, but I appreciated her trying to expand my horizons. She made me laugh, challenged me to try new things, and genuinely seemed interested in building a future together. Sarah's parents liked me well enough. Her dad, Greg, ran an auto body shop. Classic blue-collar guy who appreciated that I owned my own place and had a stable career. We'd talk about the housing market and car maintenance over holiday dinners. Nothing deep, but solid respect between us. Her mom, Diane, was friendly, but always seemed a bit distant, like she was permanently evaluating whether I was good enough for her daughter. They'd visit maybe once every 2 months, and I'd always make sure the townhouse looked presentable. Greg would inspect my renovation work and give his approval, which felt good coming from a guy who worked with his hands for 40 years. Diane would compliment my furniture choices, while probably mentally redesigning everything. Normal in-law dynamics. Things were good for the first couple years. We settled into this comfortable routine where she'd plan our social calendar, and I'd handle the practical stuff like bills, home maintenance, car issues. She appreciated that I took care of the boring adult responsibilities so she could focus on being creative and spontaneous. Perfect balance, or so I thought. After 3 years together, we got married at this vineyard about 2 hours north. Small ceremony, maybe 80 people, nothing too crazy. I wore the suit I bought specifically for the occasion, after Sarah vetoed my plan to just wear my interview suit. Apparently, getting married requires a different level of suit formality. Who knew? The wedding was nice. The wedding. Her dad gave a speech about how I'd better treat his daughter right. I gave a speech thanking everyone for coming, and probably made too many real estate jokes. Sarah looked beautiful. I looked decent in my new suit, and everyone had a good time. We honeymooned in the Caribbean for a week at this all-inclusive resort where I got the worst sunburn of my life because I underestimated the equator sun. Now here's where things get relevant to the prenup situation. Before we got married, I insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Not because I thought Sarah was a gold digger or anything like that, but because I'd worked hard for my townhouse and my savings. The real estate market had been good to me. I'd made some smart investment choices, and I wanted to protect what I'd built. My townhouse had nearly doubled in value since I bought it. I'm talking about going from $185,000 to almost $340,000 in 3 years, because the neighborhood gentrified faster than anyone expected. That craft brewery opened up 2 blocks away, then came the hipster coffee shops, then the yoga studios, and suddenly my working-class neighborhood became trendy. Property values went crazy. I'd also inherited $75,000 from my grandmother 2 years before meeting Sarah. Used some of it for the townhouse renovation, invested the rest in a mix of mutual funds and real estate investment trusts. Nothing fancy, just steady growth. By the time we got married, that inheritance had grown to about $95,000. I wanted to make sure that money stayed protected. Sarah wasn't thrilled about the prenup initially. She did the whole hurt routine about how it meant I didn't trust her, didn't believe in our future, was already planning our divorce before we even got married. Standard objections. But I stood firm, explained that it was about protecting what I'd built before we met, not about planning for failure. Eventually, she came around. Her dad actually backed me up, said it was smart to protect my assets, and that real successful marriages could survive having a prenup. That helped. We got a lawyer, drafted something fair where she'd get nothing from the townhouse sale or my pre-marriage investments, but we'd split anything we built together during the marriage. She'd get spousal support for 2 years if we divorced. Seemed reasonable to everyone. The prenup was pretty straightforward. Everything I owned before marriage stayed mine. The townhouse, my savings, my investment accounts, my truck. Anything we acquired during marriage got split down the middle. If we divorced, she'd get $2,000 a month in support for 24 months to help her get established. We both signed it, got it notarized, filed it properly. Done deal. Life after marriage was pretty normal for the first 4 years. We both worked, split the bills, took vacations to places like Nashville and Austin. She advanced in her event coordinator career, started managing bigger corporate events. I moved up at my firm, started handling bigger commercial properties. We were doing the whole successful young married couple thing. Sarah made decent money, probably around $48,000 a year. Not amazing, but enough to cover her car payment, her personal expenses, and her half of the utilities. I covered the mortgage since it was my house, and we split groceries and entertainment. Fair arrangement that nobody complained about. But around the 4-year mark, things started changing. Small stuff at first. Sarah began going out more with her work friends, staying out later, being less interested in our usual weekend routine. I figured it was just her needing more social time. Nothing to worry about. She'd always been more extroverted than me anyway. She started talking about this new friend from work, Amanda. Amanda did this. Amanda said that. Amanda thinks we should try new things. Amanda apparently had all these opinions about relationships and marriage and personal growth. Every conversation somehow looped back to whatever profound wisdom Amanda had recently shared. Amanda worked as a senior event coordinator at Sarah's hotel, supposedly had this amazing open-minded perspective on life. Divorced twice, no kids, lived in this trendy loft downtown. Sarah started adopting her phrases, her opinions, even her fashion sense. Suddenly, my wife was buying clothes that looked exactly like Amanda's Instagram posts. I met Amanda exactly once at a work happy hour Sarah dragged me to. Woman gave me immediate bad vibes. Too loud, too invasive with personal questions. Kept touching Sarah's arm every 5 seconds like they were best friends since kindergarten. She asked me within 10 minutes of meeting how I felt about Sarah's sexual freedom. What kind of question is that to ask someone's husband at a work event? Red flag city, but I kept my mouth shut. Sarah seemed to really value this friendship, and I didn't want to be the controlling husband who dictated her friendships. Plus, I figured she was smart enough to see through whatever nonsense Amanda was peddling. Turns out I was wrong about that. Sarah started suggesting we needed to be more adventurous. Not in the fun vacation way, but in the relationship way. Kept bringing up articles about modern marriages, about couples who had different arrangements, about how traditional monogamy was just a social construct designed by religious institutions to control people. Real freshman philosophy class vibes. I'd just nod along because what else do you say to that? Sure, honey, marriage is a construct. So is my mortgage, but I still pay it every month. Didn't think much of it, because she'd go through phases like this. 1 month it was veganism, another month it was minimalism. Usually lasted about 3 weeks before she got bored and moved on. But this phase didn't end. She kept pushing the conversation, asking hypothetical questions about how I'd feel if she wanted to explore connections with other people. Not cheating, she'd emphasize, but ethical non-monogamy. I should have paid more attention to where this was heading, but I honestly thought she was just processing some midlife crisis thing early. Then came last month, September 14th to be exact, a date now burned into my brain forever. Sarah texted me at work saying she wanted to take me to dinner somewhere nice, that we needed to talk about our future. I'm thinking marriage counseling, maybe she wants to discuss having kids, perhaps she's unhappy with her job. Normal marriage conversation stuff. We met at this Italian place she picked out. One of those trendy spots where the menu doesn't have prices, and the portions could fit in a shot glass. I showed up in slacks and a button-down, ready for whatever serious conversation we needed to have. That's when I saw she wasn't alone. Sarah was sitting at the table with some dude I'd never seen before. Younger guy, maybe 28 or 29, wearing one of those carefully curated casual outfits that probably cost $400, but was supposed to look effortless. Artfully messy hair, designer stubble, The whole Instagram influencer aesthetic. He stood up and shook my hand like we were meeting for a business deal. His name was Trevor. Of course it was. He worked in marketing for some startup nobody's heard of. Had that fake, confident energy of guys who describe themselves as entrepreneurs, but actually just have a LinkedIn page. Gave me this weird knowing smile like we were all in on the same joke. I sat down completely confused, looking at Sarah for an explanation. She had this nervous energy, fidgeting with her wine glass, smiling too much. The kind of body language that screamed, "I'm about to say something I know you won't like." That's when she dropped it. "So, I wanted to introduce you to Trevor. He's my boyfriend. I've been seeing him for about 3 months now, and I think it's time we were all honest about my swinger nature. I need to reveal this part of myself. It's who I really am." I just stared at her, then at Trevor, then back at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for the cameras to pop out, waiting for literally any indication this was some elaborate prank. Nothing came. "Your swinger nature," I repeated slowly. Yes, I've always known I wasn't built for traditional monogamy. Amanda helped me realize I'd been suppressing my true self. Trevor and I connected at a conference last summer, and it just felt right. I know this might be a surprise, but I wanted you to meet him so we could all be open about this new dynamic. Trevor nodded like she'd just explained she was taking up pottery, not announcing she'd been having an affair for 3 months. "I really respect what you and Sarah built," he said with this practiced sincerity that made me want to flip the table. "I'm not trying to replace you or anything. We can all figure out what this looks like together. Figure out what this looks like together." Like we were discussing a kitchen renovation. I sat there for maybe 30 seconds processing. My wife of 5 years just told me at a public restaurant that she'd been sleeping with marketing Trevor for 3 months, framed it as discovering her swinger nature, and expected me to what exactly? Shake his hand and agree to share custody of my wife? Sarah jumped in before I could respond. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I think once you sit with it, you'll realize this could actually strengthen our marriage. Lots of couples explore alternative arrangements. It doesn't mean I love you any less. If anything, being honest about my needs shows how much I value our relationship." The mental gymnastics were impressive. She'd cheated for 3 months, told herself some story about discovering her authentic self, and now wanted credit for finally being honest. Like I should thank her for letting me know about her boyfriend at the 3-month mark, instead of the 6-month mark. Trevor was nodding along like she was making perfect sense. "Sarah talks about you all the time, man. She really values what you guys have. This is just about adding to that, not replacing it." I looked at this dude, this walking GQ advertisement sitting across from me, talking about my marriage like he understood it, like he had any right to have an opinion on it. Then I looked at Sarah, who genuinely seemed to expect me to process this revelation and come around to her way of thinking. That's when something clicked. A weird calm came over me. I realized I had zero interest in fighting about this. Zero interest in arguing or trying to convince her this was insane. She'd already made her choice. She'd been making it for 3 months while lying to my face every day. "Good luck with that," I said, standing up. Sarah's face fell. "Wait, what? Where are you going? We need to talk about this." "No, we don't. You made a decision. I'm making mine. Good luck with your swinger journey or whatever you want to call it." I walked out of that restaurant, got in my truck, and drove home. Sat in my driveway for probably 20 minutes, just staring at my house, processing what just happened. My wife of 5 years just introduced me to her affair partner and tried to rebrand cheating as sexual liberation. Sarah came home maybe an hour later. I was sitting on the couch with a notebook, already making a list of what needed to happen next. She walked in with this defensive energy, arms crossed, ready for a fight. "You didn't even give me a chance to explain," she started. "Explain what exactly? That you've been sleeping with marketing Trevor for 3 months behind my back? That you decided you're a swinger now? What part needs more explanation? It's not cheating if I'm being honest with you about who I am. You were honest after 3 months of lying. That's not how honesty works." She sat down, tried to take my hand. I pulled away. "I know you're hurt, but I really think if you gave this a chance, if you tried to understand where I'm coming from, we could make this work. Lots of marriages survive worse than this." Survive? That's your sales pitch? Our marriage could survive you having a boyfriend? Why are you being so closed-minded about this? I'm trying to include you in my journey, in my growth. Amanda says that men who can't handle their partners exploring other connections are usually insecure about their own masculinity, Amanda says. Of course. This whole thing had her fingerprints all over it. I'd bet money Amanda suggested the restaurant reveal. Probably told Sarah it was brave and authentic. Probably helped her pick out the outfit she wore to introduce her husband to her affair partner. "I want a divorce," I said simply. Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being dramatic. You need time to process this. Give it a week. Think about it rationally instead of just reacting emotionally. I'm perfectly calm. You cheated on me, tried to reframe it as personal growth, and now expect me to participate in your alternative lifestyle. I'm not interested in any of that. I want a divorce. You can't just throw away 5 years of marriage because you're having a knee-jerk reaction to something you don't understand. Watch me. I stood up and went to the bedroom. Started pulling out the filing cabinet where I kept important documents. Found the prenup, made a copy, put the original back. Sarah followed me, her tone shifting from defensive to panicked. Wait, you're serious? You're actually going to divorce me over this? Yes. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling. I'll slow things down with Trevor if that helps you adjust. We don't have to rush into any decisions. You rushed into a decision 3 months ago when you started sleeping with him. I'm just catching up. She tried a different angle. Think about what we built together. Think about our memories, our plans. You're going to throw all of that away because I'm being honest about my needs? You're not being honest. You're trying to manipulate me into accepting something I never agreed to. That's not honesty. That's coercion. The next morning I called my lawyer. Same guy who handled the prenup. Explained the situation and he literally started laughing. Said he'd seen a lot in his 30 years practicing family law, but the restaurant reveal of an affair partner disguised as sexual awakening was a new one. We started divorce proceedings immediately. Pennsylvania has a no-fault divorce option, which meant I didn't even need to prove adultery or anything else. Just had to state the marriage was irretrievably broken. Considering my wife had a boyfriend she wanted me to meet, I felt confident making that claim. Sarah moved out within a week, packed her stuff while I was at work, left her key on the kitchen counter. Guess Trevor had space in his apartment, or maybe she moved in with Amanda. Didn't ask, didn't care. Then came the real show. About 2 weeks after I filed, my lawyer got a call from Sarah's attorney. She was demanding the house. My house. The one I bought before I met her, renovated myself, and had explicitly protected in the prenup. Her argument? She'd lived there for 4 years and contributed to maintaining it by paying utilities. My lawyer called me trying not to laugh. Your ex-wife's attorney is claiming she's entitled to half the proceeds from the house sale because she contributed to the household. We have a prenup that explicitly states the house is mine. I'm aware. Her lawyer seems to be hoping we forgot that detail. He sent over Sarah's demands. She wanted half the house value, which at current market rates was about $170,000. Also wanted 3 years of spousal support instead of the 2 years outlined in the prenup. Also wanted half of my retirement account, which had also been protected in the prenup. Basically, she wanted to pretend the prenup didn't exist. My lawyer drafted a response that was essentially a polite legal version of absolutely not. Referenced the prenup about 12 times, included copies of the signed and notarized document, and reminded her attorney that we'd both had independent legal counsel review it before signing. Sarah's response came through her lawyer, but might as well have been written in crayon. She claimed she signed the prenup under duress, that I'd pressured her into it before the wedding, that she didn't understand what she was agreeing to. None of which was true. We'd spent 6 months negotiating the prenup with 2 different lawyers before the wedding. She'd had every opportunity to push back, negotiate different terms, or walk away entirely. She signed it because it was fair, and she agreed to the terms. But here's where it gets really good. After her lawyer's attempt to invalidate the prenup failed, Sarah started texting me directly. First few messages were apologies. She'd made a mistake. Trevor was just a phase. She wanted to work on our marriage. Standard post-consequence regret. I didn't respond. Let her shout into the void. Then the texts changed tone. She was hurt that I was being so cold. Didn't I care about what we built together? Wasn't I at least willing to be civil? She needed money for rent. Her new place was expensive. Couldn't I at least help her out until the divorce was final? Still didn't respond. Then came the aggressive texts. I was being petty and vindictive. She'd given me the best years of her life. I owed her something for the 4 years she spent making our house a home. The prenup was unfair and I knew it. She deserved half of everything because that's what marriage meant. My lawyer advised me to keep screenshots of everything but don't engage. So that's what I did. Every text, every voicemail, every email went into a folder labeled Sarah Meltdown for potential evidence if things got really messy. 3 weeks after filing, Sarah called me from her mom's phone. I answered because I didn't recognize the number. Figured it might be something important. You actually answered, Sarah said, sounding surprised. What do you want? I need you to understand something. The house thing, the money demands, that wasn't my idea. That was my lawyer being aggressive. I told him to push for it, but I didn't really think you'd say no to helping me out. The prenup says you get nothing from the house. We both signed it. You agreed to those terms. But that was before everything happened. Things are different now. I need that money to start over. You're being really cruel about this. I'm following the legal agreement we both signed. It's not fair. You have all this equity in the house and I have nothing. You have a job. My job doesn't pay enough to cover rent in a decent place. I can't afford to live on my own. Should have thought about that before introducing me to Trevor. She was quiet for a second. Then, that was a mistake. I know that now. Trevor broke up with me last week. Said he didn't sign up for this much drama. Amanda stopped talking to me too. Said I handled everything wrong. I have nobody right now. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her. Part of me remembered her sitting across from me at that restaurant, smiling while she introduced me to her boyfriend, acting like I should be grateful she was including me in her journey. Good luck with everything, Sarah. Wait, don't hang up. Can't we talk about this like adults? Can't we figure something out? We are figuring something out. It's called divorce. My lawyer will be in touch about the settlement. I hung up. She called back 6 times. I sent every call to voicemail. The next development came when Sarah's dad called me. Greg, the guy who'd spent holidays at my house, who'd approved of my renovation work, who'd backed me up about the prenup before the wedding. What happened between you two? He asked. No preamble. She didn't tell you? She said you're divorcing her because you grew apart. Said she made some mistakes but nothing that warranted ending the marriage. Said you're refusing to give her anything from the house even though she helped maintain it. I laid out the whole story. The restaurant reveal, Trevor, the swinger nature speech, the demands for money after the prenup clearly stated otherwise. He was quiet the whole time. Finally, she brought her boyfriend to meet you at a restaurant? Yup. And now she wants half your house? That's what her lawyer's asking for. He sighed heavy. I'm sorry. I didn't know any of that. She painted a very different picture to us. I figured, the prenup still valid? According to my lawyer, yes. Then stick to it. You protected yourself for exactly this situation. Don't let her guilt you into giving her money she's not entitled to. That call helped more than Greg probably knew. Having her own father validate that I wasn't being unreasonable, that the prenup existed for this exact scenario, took a lot of pressure off. But Sarah wasn't done trying. A week before our scheduled court date for the preliminary divorce hearing, she played her final card. Showed up at my workplace. I was coming out of a meeting when the receptionist told me I had a visitor in the lobby. There stood Sarah, dressed professionally like she was there for business, holding a folder full of papers. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Contact my lawyer. Just give me 5 minutes, please. Against my better judgment, I walked her to my truck in the parking lot. Wasn't about to have this conversation in my office where colleagues could overhear. She handed me the folder. Inside were printed Facebook posts, text message screenshots, even photos from our wedding. I made a timeline of our relationship, she explained. All the good times, all the memories, everything we built. I need you to remember why we got married in the first place. I flipped through it. Wedding photos, vacation pictures, screenshots of sweet text conversations from years ago. A scrapbook of a marriage that used to exist before she decided monogamy was a social construct. What's your point? My point is we were happy. We can be happy again. I made mistakes, I know that. But mistakes shouldn't end a marriage. You need to remember what we had before you throw it all away. You brought your boyfriend to meet me at a restaurant. I know. That was horrible judgment. I was confused. Amanda had me convinced that being open about everything was the brave thing to do. I see now how messed up that was. And now you want me to forget it happened? I want you to remember that one mistake doesn't erase 5 years of good times. I closed the folder and handed it back to her. You're right. It doesn't erase them. But it does end them. We're not getting back together. The divorce is happening. You're getting what the prenup says you get and nothing more. Her face hardened. You're really not going to help me at all? After everything? After everything? You mean after you cheated on me and then demanded money you're not entitled to? It was a joke, she blurted out. I stared at her. What? The whole restaurant thing. It was supposed to be a joke. Trevor was just an actor I hired. I was trying to see if you'd fight for me, if you still cared enough to get jealous. It was a stupid test, but that's all it was. You're taking it way too seriously. The lie was so absurd I almost laughed. A joke that lasted 3 months? That's some serious commitment to a bit. I'm serious. Trevor isn't even his real name. I paid him $500 to pretend to be my boyfriend for that dinner. I thought it would spark something between us, make you realize you couldn't lose me. It backfired and I panicked. Sarah, I've seen the text messages between you two. Your lawyer literally submitted them trying to prove the marriage was still viable. Months of conversations about hotel rooms and weekend trips. That's a really expensive joke. Her face fell. The lie crumbled in real time. Okay, fine. Trevor was real. But the swinger thing was a joke. I was never actually a swinger. I just said that because Amanda told me it sounded better than admitting I'd had an affair. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I'm getting divorced. That's exactly the appropriate proportion. She grabbed my arm. Please, I'll sign whatever you want. I'll drop all the demands for the house money. Just don't leave me with nothing. You're getting 2 years of spousal support. That's not nothing. That's $48,000 to figure out your life. That's barely enough to survive. You make $48,000 a year at your job. Between that and the support, you'll have $96,000 annual income for 2 years. You'll survive. The preliminary hearing went exactly as expected. Judge reviewed the prenup, confirmed it was properly executed, denied all of Sarah's claims to the house or my pre-marriage assets. She got her 2 years of support. That's it. Sarah sat in that courtroom looking defeated. Her lawyer tried to argue the prenup was unconscionable, that she'd be left destitute, that I had way more resources. Judge wasn't having it. Said she had a job, she'd receive support, and she'd agreed to these exact terms 5 years ago. The judge actually looked annoyed when Sarah's lawyer kept pushing. He'd been practicing family law for 20 years, and you could tell he'd seen every trick in the book. When her lawyer tried to claim Sarah had been coerced into signing, the judge asked to see the documentation. My lawyer pulled out emails showing Sarah had consulted with her own attorney for 6 months before we finalized anything. Showed communication where she'd negotiated specific terms and gotten exactly what she asked for. The judge just shook his head and denied the motion. Sarah's lawyer tried one more angle, claiming she should get more because she'd sacrificed her career potential to support mine. Except she hadn't. She'd advanced in her own career during our marriage, got promoted twice, and her salary had increased by almost $12,000 in 5 years. The judge pointed out that making $48,000 a year with regular promotions didn't exactly scream career sacrifice. I watched Sarah realize she wasn't getting what she wanted. Watched her lawyer pack up his briefcase with that defeated energy lawyers get when they know they took a losing case. Watched her mom try to comfort her while shooting me dirty looks across the courtroom. Diane had apparently bought Sarah's version of events wholesale and decided I was the villain in this story. Greg caught me in the hallway after. Apologized again for how everything went down. Said Diane was being difficult about the whole thing, refusing to accept that Sarah had done anything wrong. He understood, though. Said he'd seen enough in his years to know when someone was trying to rewrite history to make themselves look better. She made her bed, he said, looking tired. Now she's got to lie in it. Just wish she'd stop trying to drag you down with her. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction. Just tired. Ready to be done with this chapter. The Pennsylvania winter was starting to kick in. That sharp cold that cuts through your jacket no matter how many layers you wear. I sat in my truck for a few minutes with the heat running, watching Sarah and her mom leave in Diane's car. Sarah looked back once, probably hoping I'd chase after her or something. I didn't. That was 3 weeks ago. The final divorce decree comes through in about 6 months, once the waiting period ends. Sarah's already moved back in with her parents according to mutual friends. Trevor's apparently dating someone else he met at the same conference where he met Sarah, some other married woman from what I heard, because dude apparently has a type. Amanda got fired from the hotel for something unrelated to this drama, but I'd like to think karma played a role. The mutual friends situation has been interesting. Most of them were her friends originally, people from her job or college. Out of maybe 15 couples we hung out with regularly, I've kept in touch with exactly 3. The rest either ghosted me completely or sent these awkward texts about staying neutral and hoping we could all still be friends once things settled down. Only one couple, Dave and Michelle, actually reached out to get my side of the story. They'd been to dinner at my place probably a dozen times, knew both of us pretty well. When Dave heard the restaurant reveal story, he texted me, "Dude, I thought I'd heard everything. That's absolutely wild. Trevor? At a restaurant? Did she expect you to high-five him or something?" Michelle's response was even better. She apparently confronted Sarah at some event about the whole thing. Sarah tried to spin it as me being closed-minded and unwilling to work on our marriage. Michelle straight up told her that introducing your husband to your affair partner wasn't working on your marriage. It was ending it with extra steps. They're not friends anymore. The work situation got a bit weird too. Someone from Sarah's hotel must have heard about the divorce, because I started getting these random LinkedIn connection requests from her coworkers. Not sure if they were being nosy or what, but I ignored most of them. One woman I'd met a few times, Jessica, actually sent me a message apologizing for not seeing the signs of what Sarah was up to. Apparently, the whole Amanda influence thing had been obvious to everyone at work except me. According to Jessica, Amanda had basically been coaching Sarah on how to have an affair for months, telling her which conference hotels had the best privacy, how to explain late nights, even what to say to justify the whole ethical non-monogamy angle. The entire office apparently knew something was going on between Sarah and Trevor at that conference. They'd been spotted together at hotel bars, leaving sessions early to go back to their rooms. The whole cliché corporate affair package. What really got me was that Sarah's co-workers had run a betting pool on how long until I found out. A betting pool. On my marriage ending. Jessica told me she'd put money on me finding out within 6 months and lost, because it took longer than that. I didn't know whether to be insulted or impressed by the audacity. The house situation has been better than expected. Without Sarah there, I've actually started enjoying the place again. First thing I did was change the locks. Not because I thought she'd try to come back, but because I needed the psychological reset. New keys, new start, all that. Then, I repainted the bedroom. Sarah had insisted on this dusty rose color I'd hated from day one. Painted over it with slate gray. Took a Saturday and about 4 coats to cover that pink, but worth it. Standing there with paint on my hands, music playing, actually enjoying my own space felt like reclaiming something. I've been working on house projects I'd put off. Finished the basement properly, turned it into a workshop and entertainment space. Built a bar with reclaimed wood, installed proper lighting, got a decent sound system. My dad helped with the wiring. We spent a weekend on it. Didn't talk much about the divorce. Just worked and listened to classic rock. The renovations have been therapeutic. Having something concrete to work on. Seeing progress. Building something that's entirely mine. Sarah always had opinions about everything. The bar was too masculine. The lighting was too harsh. Did we really need a workshop? Now I make my own decisions. As for me, I'm still in my townhouse, still doing my job, still living my life comfortably. The only difference is I'm doing it without a wife who thought introducing me to her boyfriend at an Italian restaurant was a reasonable way to reveal her authentic self. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.